Hello again. I'll tell you a bit more about William Walton's First Symphony at the beginning or before the finale, but not before the next movement, the third movement, about which I'll say only this. It opens with melancholy, adagio con melancholia, as Walton wrote. A slow flute plays the opening melody, which Walton originally planned for the symphony's first allegro. However, he thought twice about it and then decided to slow the whole thing down. And in doing so, he created something that's got something of the bittersweet about it. It's really quite affecting music. I think there's some anguish here. Let's hear it then. This then is the third movement. I think I told you to expect anguish in that. Well, it was partway through writing that movement that Walton became, in his word, stuck. He just couldn't finish the symphony, and he told Sir Hamilton Harty, the conductor of the Halley Orchestra, who had asked that he write the symphony, that there was no way he could get it finished in time for the planned premiere, which had been scheduled for April 1934. Actually, Harty, I beg your pardon, had just left the Halley Orchestra to take over as conductor of the LSO, and he wanted his new orchestra to have the prestige of giving the first performance of a major work by this young up-and-coming composer. However, another year passed during which the first three movements were completed, and in November 1934 Harty persuaded Walton to let him announce that the symphony would be performed the following month without a finale. And that's what happened in the Queen's Hall in London. Walton later said that he really regretted letting the symphony being performed before it was truly finished. That said, 1934 was a pretty grim year for English music. Elgar, Holst and Delius all died in 1934, so it's maybe understandable that Walton's first symphony was so eagerly awaited, with or without the fourth movement. Later, two more performances of the incomplete work were given, this time by the London Philharmonic under Malcolm Sargent. Vaughan Williams thought highly of the symphony, and he told Walton that he didn't think a fourth movement was needed at all. And for a good few months, I beg your pardon, Walton left the symphony alone, and he was working on other things. However, finally he got the fourth movement completed in August 1935, and it was premiered by Harty and the BBC Symphony Orchestra in November of that year. And so we come to the last movement, the astonishing last movement. There's some angst in it, there's some malevolence in it, or rather there's some angst and some malevolence in each of the movements that you've already heard, the three movements you've already heard, but the final movement couldn't be more different. Its tone is entirely optimistic. In fact, it's so different from the other three movements that a lot of critics felt it really didn't belong to this symphony at all. So what happened? Well, by the time he wrote this movement, Walton had met and fallen in love with Alice Wimborne, who was a Viscountess and a society hostess. She was 22 years older than him. And the finale reflected a change in Walton's personal life. It's as simple as that. As a friend of Walton commented, the trouble was Willie changed girlfriends between movements. It's almost as if all the pain, all the grief of the earlier movements had miraculously disappeared. Walton described the upbeat finale as a piece for the mob, but nevertheless he thought it was the best movement of the four. And it certainly caps a brilliant work. The composer John Ireland told Walton, "This is the work of a true master. It has established you as the most vital and original genius in Europe. No one but a bloody fool could fail to see this." The premiere of the full completed symphony was greeted with fantastic enthusiasm, although there were some critics. Some people thought that his decision to permit performance of the incomplete symphony a year earlier backfired on him, as the fourth movement is so different in tone from the rest of the work that they argued it was no longer a cohesive symphony. However, one newspaper reported at the premiere the applause at the close was overwhelming, and when Mr. Walton, a slim, shy young man, came onto the platform, he was cheered continuously for 5 minutes. So let's see if I can find the finale and let's listen to it. Okay. Listen out in this, by the way, for the fugue section. It begins about 3 minutes into the movement. Walton had a lot of trouble writing this movement, and he asked his friend, the composer Constant Lambert, for some advice on it. Lambert suggested a fugue, but Walton, who was largely self-taught, admitted that he simply didn't know how to write one, so Lambert sent him an article on fugues, and Walton took it from there. Here's the finale of Walton Symphony No. 1. if, as William Walton said, all his music is about girls, she must have been quite a girl. Well, that concludes this video and indeed this programme. I hope you enjoyed the music. Thank you.